Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive, listeners. Today we're really zeroing in on something that's been generating a ton of buzz in the business world, AI. But hold on, before you tune out thinking, I've heard it all before, we're not just talking broad strokes here. We're getting down to brass tacks about AI and finance, and specifically how to make it work for you with something called an AI pilot.
And that's what I think is so fascinating about where we are with AI right now. It's gone beyond just, those big futuristic promises. We're seeing companies achieve some really, really tangible benefits, and these pilots are how they're doing it.
Okay, so paint a picture for us. We've got a finance team, probably up to their eyeballs in spreadsheets, right? They've heard AI could be the answer to like everything, but the thought of some massive system overhaul, that's got to be terrifying.
It's a bit like, jumping into the deep end without checking the water temperature first, right? An AI pilot lets you dip your toes in, test the waters with a smaller experimental project, and most importantly, keep the risk low.
Low risk. Now, those are words any CFO loves to hear, especially when you're talking about something as sensitive as financial data. So, from a CFO's perspective, what are some of the big things they'd want to avoid, and how would a pilot help with that?
There's a whole laundry list of concerns, but right at the top, data security breaches. I mean, that's a nightmare scenario for any CFO. One misstep there, and they're looking at regulatory fines, lawsuits, the whole 9 yards. But a pilot lets you basically create a safe, controlled environment to test your security measures, make sure everything's compliant before you even think about rolling it out to the whole system.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's like instead of diving headfirst into potentially shark-infested waters,
Yeah.
you get to check for sharks first.
Exactly. And this approach really resonates with what we're hearing from CFOs on the front lines. I was reading about Magdalena Bayashos, the CFO over at Zamel. She was saying how well these pilots fit with their company culture, which is all about being tech forward, but also, being smart about it.
Right. And it's not just about avoiding the negative. I mean, Adrian Pugalco, the CFO of Precardia, he's a real believer in this pilot approach. He sees it as like the natural evolution of automation, a way to free his team from those mind-numbing manual tasks so they can focus on the bigger picture.
And that's such a key point. AI done right isn't about replacing humans, it's about empowering them to do their best work. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's back up and really break down how one of these pilots actually works in the world of finance. The source material we're looking at uses this hypothetical example, Accountant X, and lays out a pretty clear 6-step process.
6 steps. All right, I'm listening. Walk us through it.
Okay, so phase one. It all starts with laying the groundwork, and that means a lot of open communication. You've got to get everyone on board, from the tech folks to the finance team, legal, everyone. And you really want to tackle any potential legal hurdles up front.
So we're talking about things like data privacy, making sure everything's compliant with GDPR, that kind of thing.
Exactly. GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, massive, especially when you're dealing with personal data in any way. This is where you really want to make sure your legal team gives everything the green light.
Got it. Legal's happy, everyone's on the same page, goals are clear. What's next?
Now it's time to assemble the dream team. Your tech wizards and your finance gurus, all in one room hashing out the nitty-gritty. This is where you define what the pilot's going to look like, what data you're going to use, what success is going to look like. Set those expectations early.
So like your classic project kickoff, make sure everyone's singing from the same hymn sheet. And this is also where having, a dedicated AI champion, someone who really gets it, can make or break the project, right?
Oh, absolutely. Having someone who speaks both the business language and the tech language, often the CFO themselves, is invaluable. They're your AI quarterback calling the plays.
I like that analogy. Okay, so the team's ready, game plan set, legal's given the thumbs up, time to feed the AI beast, right?
Exactly. Data is the fuel for this engine, so this stage is all about data preparation. Now, this might involve extracting data from your ERP system.
Hold on, ERP system. You might
Oh,
want to rewind that one for those of us who haven't quite cracked the acronym code yet.
my apologies. ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. Think of it as the software system that holds all your company's core financial data. You're going to be pulling your pilot data from there.
Okay, that makes more sense. So we're pulling all the relevant financial data from our trusty ERP system, getting it all prepped and polished for the AI to analyze.
And this is often where those concerns about data anxiety start to bubble up. People understandably get a little nervous when you're talking about using sensitive company information, especially with something as powerful as AI.
It's like handing over the keys to the kingdom, right?
Yeah,
So how do you build that trust and make sure people are comfortable?
transparency is key. You've got to be upfront about what data you're collecting, how you're protecting it, how it's being used, and of course, having top-notch security protocols in place to prevent any breaches.
Gotcha. Address those data concerns head on. Okay, so we've got our data ducks in a row. We're ready to unleash the AI. What happens next?
Now comes the training montage. Think of it like teaching a kid to ride a bike, right? You don't just throw them on and hope for the best. There's training wheels, maybe some gentle pushes, lots of encouragement.
And hopefully they don't crash into anything too valuable along the way. But seriously, when we talk about training in AI, what are we actually doing?
In a nutshell, we're feeding the AI algorithm tons and tons of data and basically letting it learn from that data. So with our Accountant X example, we'd be feeding it historical financial data, transaction records, really anything and everything it can get its digital hands on.
So the AI is kind of learning the ins and outs of your financial system. Like, if this happens, then that happens.
Exactly. It's all about pattern recognition and prediction. The AI sifts through all that data, looking for trends, anomalies, those little details that we humans might miss.
Fascinating. Okay, so the AI's been trained, it's crunched the numbers, now what?
Time for the AI to prove itself. This stage is all about analyzing the results, seeing how well the AI has learned, did it get things right, are there any glaring errors, and then, of course, making adjustments as needed.
Like giving your star AI pupil a pop quiz.
Exactly. You're looking at accuracy, speed, how smoothly it fits into your existing workflows. And the great thing is, if it's not quite there yet, that's okay. Remember, this is a pilot. It's all about iterating, fine-tuning, and making it better.
So we've got our results, we've given the AI some constructive criticism. What's next on this AI pilot adventure?
Well, this is where things get really interesting. Based on how well your pilot went, you've got options. Maybe the AI needs a bit more fine-tuning, so you extend the pilot phase, give it a little more time to bake. Or, maybe you're ready to go all in, take the plunge and do a full-blown implementation.
It's like you've climbed Mount Everest. You can enjoy the view from the top, or you can plant your flag and claim the whole mountain range.
Exactly. But here's the thing, even if you decide, you know what, this specific AI model isn't for us, the pilot itself is still a win. You've learned so much about your data, your processes, about what AI can and can't do for you.
It's like they say, sometimes the journey is the destination. But let's be real, not everyone's doing cartwheels when they hear AI's coming to their department. How do you get your team on board with this kind of change? Like, really on board?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And it gets to this often overlooked aspect of AI, the human factor. I mean, the source material we're looking at, it really underlines how crucial it is to acknowledge people's concerns, to bring them along on this journey.
Right. Because you can have the most sophisticated AI in the world, but if your team doesn't get it and they're not using it, it's basically a very expensive paperweight.
100%. And, one of the biggest hurdles is just good old-fashioned fear of the unknown. AI has this like mystique about it. It can seem intimidating.
It's the robot uprising scene from every sci-fi movie ever.
Right. Thankfully, we're not quite there yet, but those fears are real. People worry about their jobs, their skills becoming obsolete, and that's why communication is so important. You have to over-communicate that AI is a tool to help people, not replace them.
It's about giving them superpowers, not showing them the door.
Exactly. But even when people get that, there can still be this like misconception about what AI can realistically do. The source material actually talks about this idea that AI needs to be 100% accurate right out of the gate.
Oh yeah, the AI needs to be perfect on day one.
Exactly. But that's just not realistic. It's like, think of a new employee, right? There's a learning curve. They need training. They're going to make mistakes. But over time, they get better. AI is the same way.
Setting realistic expectations is key. So we've talked about the importance of leadership buy-in, having that clean, usable data. And now we're adding a team that's ready to embrace this new world. What else do we need to make this AI pilot a success? So we've got our AI cheer squad ready to go. Our data is pristine. What's the secret sauce? What brings it all together?
The missing piece, and it's a big one, is strategic alignment. You can't just throw AI at a problem and hope for the best. It has to tie into your big picture goals, your overall business strategy.
Like, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. But
Yeah.
with AI, you might end up someplace you really don't want to be.
100%. You have to be asking those tough questions from the start. What are we trying to achieve here? How will this benefit our customers? How does this fit into our 5-year plan?
So it's like having a roadmap, knowing where you are, where you want to go, and then AI can be that turbo boost to get you there faster.
Exactly. And honestly, that level of strategic thinking, that's what separates the AI success stories from the projects that end up, gathering dust in someone's digital drawer.
It's about making AI a core part of how your business operates, not just, a shiny new gadget. But let's bring this down to earth a bit. For the folks on the ground, the ones doing the actual work, what's in it for them?
Well, for starters, imagine saying goodbye to those soul-crushing repetitive tasks that eat up hours every week. AI can automate a lot of that grunt work, freeing up time for more interesting, creative, strategic stuff.
It's like having a tireless robot intern who handles all the boring bits so you can focus on the good stuff. I like the sound of that.
Who wouldn't, right? Plus, AI can be a powerful tool for decision making. Imagine having this AI advisor that crunches mountains of data and gives you those aha insights you wouldn't have seen otherwise.
It's like having a magic crystal ball, but instead of vague predictions, it gives you actionable advice.
Exactly. And we can't forget the professional development angle. Working with AI gives your team a chance to level up their skills, to stay ahead of the curve in a world that's changing by the minute.
Future-proofing their careers, basically.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal these days.
Absolutely. It's one of those rare win-win situations. So, to wrap this up, for anyone listening who's thinking, sure, AI is great, but is this really relevant to me? I'm just a insert job title here. What would you say to them?
I'd say this. It doesn't matter if you're a CEO or a cashier, a teacher or a technician. If you work with data, and these days, who doesn't? Understanding AI is no longer optional.
It's true. Think of it like learning a new language or mastering a new software program. It's about giving yourself the tools you need to thrive in this rapidly evolving work environment. And the great thing is, AI pilots give you a really manageable, low-risk way to get started.
Dip your toes in the water before you dive into the deep end. Who knows? You might just find your dream job waiting for you on the other side of that AI-powered deep dive. That's it for today's episode, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking those big questions.